I'm Cassandra Cassie Monroe, founder and CEO of Innovate Solutions, Inc., a multi-billion-dollar enterprise software technology company giving a keynote speech on the future of artificial intelligence and cloud computing. My voice is booming and confident, sharing the breakthroughs and visions that have taken Innovate Solutions from a wild idea to an industry giant. After my inspiring speech at a lavish reception while I was chatting with a few strategic partners, Mr. Henderson, the longtime attorney of the Monroe family who had been the executor of my grandmother, Eleanor Monroe's will, suddenly approached. His face was somewhat confused and hesitant. Following him was Uncle Arthur Monroe, my grandmother's youngest son, and a few other familiar faces in the Monroe family, people I had not seen, or rather did not want to see, for more than a decade. Their faces no longer had the smug, condescending look of the past, but instead were a look of surprise, a little disbelief, and perhaps a bit of belated regret. Grandma Eleanor, the most powerful woman, the head of the Monroe family with a huge fortune accumulated over many generations, the one who once coldly removed my name from the list of heirs, leaving the entire huge fortune to Uncle Arthur and his children. The reason, very simple. In her eyes, I, Cassandra Monroe, the only granddaughter of her eldest son, Robert, was just a good-for-nothing, a dreamy daughter without a future, not worthy of being entrusted with anything of value. Now, after 15 years, when this good-for-nothing had built a fortune many times larger than what Grandma had left to more deserving people, the entire Monroe family looked at me with a different gaze, a shock that could not be hidden. Life sometimes likes to write such surprising and ironic scenarios. Our Monroe family is a prominent and wealthy family in Illinois with a heavy industrial manufacturing corporation that has existed for 3 generations. After my grandfather passed away, my grandmother, Eleanor Monroe, became the head of the family, a real queen, with absolute power in all decisions related to the family and business. She was an intelligent, decisive woman, but also extremely conservative, patriarchal, and always placed great importance on traditional values, especially the fact that her children and grandchildren must inherit and develop the family business according to the path she had laid out. I, Cassandra, or as everyone affectionately called Cassie, was a young girl who had just graduated from high school with a heart full of creative ideas and a burning passion for the world of technology. Unlike my cousins who always tried to be obedient and followed the safe path of studying business or engineering to later work for Monroe Corporation, I was fascinated by lines of code, by complex algorithms, by the limitless potential of software and artificial intelligence in solving the world's big problems. I dreamed of studying computer science at a prestigious university on the West Coast, and then building my own technology company, a company that could create breakthrough products that brought real value to society. But that dream of mine, in my grandmother Eleanor's eyes, was something completely unrealistic, and without future. She thought that technology was an unstable, frivolous field, not suitable for the Monroe family tradition of working hard, eating hard. She wanted me, like my father, Robert Monroe, her eldest son, to study something related to production management or finance, then work in the corporation, starting from the lowest positions, gaining experience, and waiting for the opportunity to contribute to the development of the family business. Uncle Arthur Monroe, my grandmother's youngest son, whom she loved and trusted, was the complete opposite of me. He was not really talented or far-sighted, but he knew how to say nice things, how to please his mother, and always followed the traditional path that my grandmother had outlined. Uncle Arthur and his children, especially Kevin Monroe, my cousin who always appeared to be obedient and successful, according to my grandmother's standards, were always favored and given special attention by my grandmother. The contempt my grandmother and some other family members felt for me did not stop at words. It was also shown in the way she compared me to my Uncle Arthur or my cousin Kevin. She often hinted that I was just a dreamer, had no business sense, wouldn't achieve anything, so don't worry. My parents, Robert and Susan Monroe, although they probably felt a little sorry for their daughter, were too weak to dare to argue with my grandmother, who held all the financial and spiritual power of the whole family. They were also influenced by her prejudices and sometimes advised me to be a little more realistic, to learn from the example of Uncle Arthur and Brother Kevin. Don't upset my grandmother. The height of that injustice and disregard came when my grandmother Eleanor Monroe died at the age of 85. A few weeks after the funeral, her will was read to the entire family by her lawyer Henderson. It was a great shock, a fatal stab to my heart, and perhaps to my parents' heart too, though they dared not show it. My grandmother, in her carefully and clearly drawn up will, had left the entire Monroe fortune, including the controlling stake in the manufacturing corporation, a series of valuable real estate holdings, and huge investments to her uncle Arthur Monroe and his children. I, the eldest son's only granddaughter who should have had some claim, was barely mentioned. I received only a small, symbolic sum of money as a gift, along with a note tactfully conveyed by Attorney Henderson that she had no confidence in the ability of my branch of the family to manage the assets, and in particular that I, Cassandra Monroe, wasn't much use, and would dissipate the family fortune if entrusted to me. That comment, "It's not worth anything," was like a knife carved deep into my self-esteem, into my young soul. I felt extremely hurt not only because I lost the property that I should have had a fair right to, but more importantly the feeling of being despised and rejected cruelly and publicly by my own grandmother, whom I had loved and respected in front of the whole family. My parents, although they probably felt injustice and pity for their daughter, did not dare to speak up against it. They were afraid of offending the spirit of my grandmother, afraid of causing conflict with Uncle Arthur, who had now become the head of the family, holding all the financial power. They could only hold me in their arms, cry silently, and advise me to accept my fate and try to live a good life. Uncle Arthur Monroe, after receiving the entire estate, perhaps felt a momentary pang of guilt, but it was quickly overcome by complacency and joy. He pretended to sympathize with me, promising to care and help if I encountered difficulties, but in fact, in his eyes and those of my cousin Kevin, I saw a glee, an undisguised contempt. They thought that my grandmother's decision was completely correct, that I was truly unworthy. After the will was made public, other Monroe relatives began to change their attitudes. They distanced themselves from my branch of the family, viewing us as losers and no longer of use. Invitations to family gatherings became less frequent and then disappeared altogether. We felt isolated, pushed to the margins of the clan we had once been a part of. Even Jack Riley, my high school boyfriend who I thought would understand and support me, was hesitant. He, perhaps influenced by my family's negative comments or simply afraid of an uncertain future, if he were to be with a no-heritage girl like me, gradually distanced himself, and eventually we broke up. Some other close friends also began to keep their distance, perhaps thinking that I was no longer worthy to hang out with, or not wanting to be involved with someone who was looked down upon by the entire family. All those contempts, those injustices, those pains could not defeat me. On the contrary, it became a strong motivation, a never-ending flame of determination, urging me to succeed with my own strength, with my own talent. I promised myself that one day I would have to prove to the Monroe family, to the whole world, how wrong they were to underestimate me, to look down on my dreams. I would show them that this Cassandra Monroe, even without a single inheritance, could still do something, even something greater than what they had ever imagined. I decided to leave Illinois, leave the Monroe family's shadow to go to California, to Silicon Valley, which is considered the mecca of technology, where dreams of a better life can come true. I did not expect any help from my relatives. I would write my own story. The first days in California were extremely difficult and challenging. I was almost broke with only a small amount of savings and an iron will. I had to do all kinds of jobs to make ends meet, from serving in coffee shops, tutoring, to taking on freelance programming projects for cheap. During the day, I worked at night. I learned more about the latest technologies, artificial intelligence, cloud computing, and quietly nurtured my own startup ideas. I faced countless difficulties: lack of capital, lack of management experience, fierce competition from thousands of large and small technology companies, and prejudices and invisible barriers for a young woman who wanted to enter a field that was considered a men's playground. But I didn't give up. In a startup idea competition for students and young technologists, my project about an AI-based enterprise software solution that can optimize operational processes, improve work efficiency, and enhance information security unexpectedly won first prize. And it was also at that competition that I was lucky enough to meet Ms. Victoria Sterling. Ms. Sterling is a very successful British-American businesswoman, a famous shark investor in Silicon Valley, who has a keen eye for potential talents and breakthrough ideas. She was deeply impressed by my superior intellect, sharp, logical thinking, confidence, and especially the burning passion in my eyes when I presented my project. She saw in me not only a talented technologist, but also a visionary leader, someone who can create great changes. Victoria Sterling decided to invest a huge amount of capital in my idea, and at the same time became my strategic advisor, teacher, mentor, and guide, who taught me invaluable business lessons and hard-won experience that no school could teach. "Cassie," she said to me with a warm and confident smile, "you have a genius mind and an extraordinary will. Be brave to pursue your dreams. This world is waiting for your breakthroughs. Never let other people's prejudices hinder your steps." With strong financial and experience support from Ms. Sterling, along with my own tireless efforts and the team of talented young engineers that I have gathered, I founded Innovate Solutions, Inc. Our company focuses on researching and developing the most advanced enterprise software solutions, applying the latest technologies in artificial intelligence and cloud computing to solve the pressing problems that businesses around the world are facing. The long nights I stayed up to write code to test the product, the tense meetings with the engineering team to find the optimal solution, the failures and then getting up again after testing new products, the bold creative marketing strategies to penetrate the market and compete with the big guys who already had a name. All those difficulties and challenges could not make me falter. And then our tireless efforts were rewarded. Innovate Solutions, Inc. has created revolutionary software products, breakthrough technology solutions, helping thousands of businesses around the world optimize their operations, improve work efficiency, increase competitiveness, and achieve outstanding success. Our company has grown rapidly, becoming one of the world's leading technology corporations in its field, valued at billions of dollars. And I, Cassie Monroe, the girl who was once looked down upon by her grandmother and the entire Monroe family who thought she was worthless, became a self-made millionaire, the founder and CEO of a powerful technology empire, one of the most influential figures in the global technology industry. My name appeared on the covers of prestigious magazines such as Forbes, Fortune, Wired. I was invited to speak at the world's leading economic and technology forums. I proved to the world that a person's value does not lie in what kind of family you were born into or how much wealth you inherited, but in your own talent, determination, and desire to rise up. And now, at the Global Tech Summit in San Jose, after a speech that had made such a big splash that it had captured the attention of the entire tech world and international media, I was faced with them again, Attorney Henderson, the executor of my grandmother's will, and right behind him were my uncle Arthur Monroe, my cousin Kevin Monroe, and a few other relatives in the Monroe clan. After many years, when the name Cassie Monroe became too famous, when the fortune I created myself far exceeded what my grandmother Eleanor left to more deserving people, the Monroe family was truly stunned. Only then did they truly realize their mistake, realized that they had underestimated, had despised a precious gem just because of short-sighted prejudices, old-fashioned notions. They came to me not randomly, but with a completely different attitude than before. No more condescension, complacency, or coldness, distance. Instead, there was admiration, remorse, and perhaps even something like wanting to share the glory or looking for a reconnection for potential benefits. Uncle Arthur Monroe, the man who had been indifferent to the injustice I had suffered, was now the first to speak, his voice a little hesitant, trying to sound friendly. "Cassie, my dear uncle, my family and I have come here to congratulate you on your great success. You are truly a great source of pride, a shining example for our entire Monroe family. Your grandmother in heaven would surely be very happy and proud of you." My cousin Kevin, who had been looking at me with disdain, now tried to squeeze in, reaching out to shake my hand. "Congratulations, Cassie. I always knew you were smart and talented." "We're family, right?" Attorney Henderson stood beside her, his face a little awkward, but he did not forget to add, "Miss Monroe, the family always remembers you, and perhaps it is time for us to sit down together to reunite to develop the Monroe family legacy together." Hearing those words, seeing their sudden and somewhat ridiculous change in attitude, I did not feel happy, nor did I feel elated. Only a hint of bitter irony flashed through my heart. The pain of being looked down upon and rejected in the past, although somewhat subsided, was still there like a scar that would never fully heal. But now I was no longer the weak, vulnerable Cassie of 15 years ago. I was the one who held the initiative, the one who had the power to decide. I kept my face professional and polite, a polite smile on my lips, but in the way I looked at them there was an undisguised coldness and distance. I didn't appear too surprised, nor too moved. I thanked them politely for their congratulations, but I was not overly friendly or enthusiastic. When Uncle Arthur tried to talk about family pride, I looked him straight in the eye and said calmly, but clearly, "How surprising, Uncle Arthur, to hear such proud words from the Monroe family today." I remember as if it were yesterday Grandma Eleanor's remark that I was a good-for-nothing, that I did not deserve to inherit anything from the family fortune. Perhaps our definition of a good-for-nothing and Grandma's is a little different, isn't it, Uncle? My words stunned Uncle Arthur, his face showing a hint of confusion and shame. Cousin Kevin quickly lowered his head, avoiding my gaze. Attorney Henderson coughed, trying to change the subject. I didn't want to prolong this awkward situation. I had so many other important things to do, so many other important people to meet. I tactfully excused myself, then turned to continue talking to Ms. Victoria Sterling, my teacher, my great friend who had always been by my side, trusted me and supported me unconditionally. Faced with my undeniable success, my frightening calmness, and my sharp, meaningful words, the Monroe family, especially Uncle Arthur and my cousin Kevin, felt extremely ashamed, humiliated, and perhaps even infinitely regretful for losing a precious gem just because of their narrow-minded prejudices and old-fashioned notions. The greatest punishment for them, perhaps, is not my revenge, but having to witness the good-for-nothing of the past now succeeding more than the most favored and expected people in the family. The fact that they had to humble themselves to come to me had to change their attitude. 180 degrees had to be stunned by my success was a bitter psychological and honorable punishment. As for family relationships, I won't be able to return or reunite as easily as they want. Uncle Arthur, everyone, I might say on another occasion when I have the opportunity to talk to them privately, and more frankly, I have built my own family. It is Innovate Solutions, Inc. It is the colleagues, the partners who believed in me and stood by me when no one else would, when the entire Monroe family turned their backs on me. I don't think I really belong to the Monroe family in the way people usually define it anymore. About forgiveness. This is an extremely complex internal process. I no longer feel angry or resentful towards anyone in my family. I can say I have used my own efforts, my own successes, to rewrite the story of my life to prove my own worth. But forgiveness does not mean that I will forget what happened, nor does it mean that I will let people easily enter my life as if there had never been a wound. As for my grandmother's estate or legacy that no longer mattered to me, I don't need anything from Grandma Eleanor's legacy, Uncle, I said firmly. I've created my own legacy, a much bigger one built with my sweat, tears, and brains. I would probably keep a certain distance from them, especially from Uncle Arthur and those who had looked down on me and despised me. For my parents, it was a different story. They had been under a lot of pressure, and perhaps their remorse was sincere. "You will always be my daughter," I told them, "but our relationship needs to be rebuilt on a new foundation, one of respect, understanding, and genuine trust, which I never had before." I continued my brilliant career, leaving the Monroe family with mixed emotions, expensive lessons about prejudice, and late regret. I felt a real freedom and serenity, as if I had completely escaped the huge shadow of the past, of the words, the looks that had hurt me. I am grateful to Victoria Sterling, who saw the light in me when my family turned their backs on me. I appreciate the friends and colleagues who believed in me, supported me, and stood by me throughout that thorny journey. I will focus on developing Innovate Solutions Inc., continuing to create new technological breakthroughs bringing real values to society. I may establish a charity fund in my name to support young talents with different ideas, those who dare to dream, dare to pursue their own path, especially women in the technology field, those who are not initially recognized and supported by their families or society. They used to say that I didn't do anything, but I proved to the world that the value of a person does not lie in how much wealth you inherit, or whether you follow traditional paths or predetermined patterns. The true value of a person lies in the fact that you dare to dream, dare to pursue your passion, dare to create your own empty game. An empty game that can change the world, can bring good things to humanity. And that is the real shock, the greatest pride that I want them to remember forever. When your entire family, especially your most powerful grandmother, once looked down on you and pushed you aside because you were worthless, is now shocked and wants to take it back when you become a successful self-made millionaire, how do you react? Is Cassandra Cassie Monroe's decision a healthy balance between maintaining self-respect, forgiving with conditions, and setting necessary boundaries? Is it possible to truly heal a family relationship that has been deeply damaged by such prejudice and injustice? Share your thoughts and feelings about this story.